What's up, fellow nerds, and welcome to Not Just Status Quo. I am Dave, and today we are viewing The Mandalorian Season 2, Chapter 11, The Heiress.
And I'm Keith, and please remember to like and sublime. Dank Ferrick. Subscribe to our channel.
And I'm Doug. Also, do us a favor. Share this video, tell your friends, and ring the bell, because, as you know, this is the way.
Here we go.
Chapter 11, The Heiress. You know, there's a lot of big things that happen, midway through this episode. But, there's a few things that at the beginning that we should probably talk about. I think first being the repurposed walker that kind of pulls Din Djarin and actually doesn't pull him out, but pulls the Razor Crest out of the water. I thought that was a nice touch. Obviously, with the Empire down, people don't have money to just rebuild all things new. So it was nice seeing them using some old equipment for new purposes.
I noticed, like you said, with the repurposed walker that they had, the that some of the sound effects were the same as I had just watched The Empire Strikes Back this week, and I think that's why it stuck with me. When they were pulling the Razor Crest out of the water, it made the same noises as it did when they were on Hoth and Luke jumped up and scaled up through the bomb and blew him up. I also noticed that the dying engine on the Razor Crest sounded a lot like the dying engine on I wouldn't call it dying engine, but when in the Empire Strikes Back, the Millennium Falcon couldn't go to hyperdrive. So I like that they're recycling the sounds. I don't think that was a bad thing at all. I think it was another way to call back to the original trilogy.
Yeah, and speaking of those sound effects of the dying engine, we got to give credit to Din for that amazing almost landing that he made coming into Mon Calamari, and we have seen this before, actually. So speaking of recycled things, we definitely saw this in the prequels. When Obi-Wan utters the obviously perfect Obi-Wan line, I believe it was in episode 1, or I think it was episode 2. It was episode 2. They come back in and he goes, another perfect landing. And, that was it. Just reminded me immediately of that. But great almost landing, Mando.
And you mentioned him, when he lands there, and the Mon Calamari is watching him land. I thought it was funny that he was wearing a sweater.
And while we're talking about repurposed sounds, I know this is much later in the episode, but did anyone else hear Darth Vader's helmet noise coming off when Bo-Katan removed her helmet when they were in the cockpit of the Imperial ship?
And don't forget the noise that we've also heard before. We heard it in the prison episode, but that alarm sounding, which is what we heard on the Death Star as well, as the Mandalorians were, repurposing or taking back the weapons for the movement. Go Mandalore.
And, the frog lady was finally reunited with her husband or man or whatever it may be. Mando gets pointed in the direction of a tavern, total D&D, to go find out more information about the Mandalorians that are on that planet. And lo and behold, another flashback to season 1, the Mon Calamari money that he was paid for that first bounty from episode 1 comes into play when he pays the Mon Calamari with that said money.
How'd you guys like the hilarious references to Alien and Predator in this movie when he goes into the tavern and gives the child his wonderful, disgusting slop to eat, which I'm sure he doesn't care. He eats anything, including unfertilized eggs. Yoda is not canceled. Knock it off. But I love the face hugger that jumps out, and of course, perfect line: "Don't play with your food."
Yeah, I wish I had something to add to that, but I don't. I just wanted to mention it as well, that when he jumped on his face, and it was just perfect throwback. Jon Favreau is the perfect. He's just the callback director. He just calls back to all this pop culture. I think it's pretty awesome.
And then after he pays him the money, a Quarren comes over and says he could take him. And I swear that's Clancy Brown's voice once again. He did a voice for the prison episode. Now he's doing another voice. You can't get enough Clancy Brown, to be quite honest.
Yeah, and the first time we saw the Quarren was actually in the Return of the Jedi at Jabba's palace. I think their CGI was actually helped a lot by the effects of the Pirates of the Caribbean and Davy Jones. He looked a lot like the Quarren in this episode. And the Quarren, just like the Mon Calamari, are, just to give you a brief history, they are natives of Mon Cala, and it makes sense that they would be on this world too. It's a water planet of Trask. And it seems like they've been double crossers in the world of the galaxy of Star Wars. With in the Clone Wars, they aligned with Count Dooku to create some unrest, and here they betray trust on Mando.
And with that being said, Mando boards a ship to be taken to these fellow Mandalorians, and unfortunately, it's a trap.
It's a trap!
Now, I do think they were only trying to get his Beskar steel, but when they kicked Baby Yoda into that pit with the third monster for this season in the third episode, I do think we have a theme running through all of these. Not only are we getting alien references in every episode, but there seems to be a monster of some kind in each episode. You know, Din jumps in to try to save him. They capture him. They're kind of sticking spears down at him to keep him down, hopefully killing him so they can pull that Beskar off his dead body and sell it. But then lo and behold, who comes to save him but Bo-Katan? What a moment. It was everything I had hoped it would be.
And were you guys getting any Sarlacc monster sort of vibes from that creature that came out of the water? So I noticed in the artwork that they display at the end of each episode, I noticed that the original drawing, they were showing shark fins circling around the child's cradle. But instead, what we ended up getting was this sort of like flowering monster that came up and sucked Baby Yoda up, you know, into its mouth and everything. And I thought, I was like, oh man, this is nuts. There's like a water Sarlacc. It's crazy. So I'm wondering if we're going to end up seeing like any more of these kind of creatures, or, you know, how many different sort of, giant pit monsters there are in the galaxy.
And Bo-Katan's armor is perfectly duplicated from her armor on the Clone Wars. I think, and Katie Sackhoff looks exactly like her animated counterpart. I think that was tremendous forethought if they thought to design the animated character and then one day she would play it live. I don't know. It just turned out great. It shows that they have continuity between the shows. I love it. And Casca Reeves' armor, along with Bo-Katan, has an owl on it, signifying that they are night owls. An all female band of Mandalorian warriors led by Bo-Katan.
Well, and as Dave knows, and all you guys know, Katie Sackhoff did do the voice of Bo-Katan in the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels. So maybe, I'm sure they did kind of, version the animation off of her, and it really did well. And while we're talking about that, they show up, they take care of business with the Quarren, and then as they're standing there, they take off their helmets, and this sparks an instant reaction from Din Djarin saying, where did you get that armor? Because once again, as he knows, Mandalorians don't take off their helmets. And we find out, and I think this is a huge, huge point for the Mandalorian, Bo-Katan responds, oh, he's one of them. Basically, the children of the Watch, they're extremists, and it's a religious zealot who feel this way, who are part of Death Watch, who are trying to bring back the ways of Mandalore. And I thought, huge turning point, and I think we're going to be able to branch off of this for many years to come.
And like Din says in this episode, there is only one way, the way of the Mandalore. I assume that he means Mandalore the Great, who we discussed in our History of Mandalorians video. Please go and check that out. Anyway, the children of the Watch are very strict on the way. So when they take their helmets off, he just naturally assumes, that's his first question when he sees anybody with the armor, is where did you get the armor? So I think by the end of the episode, he kind of wins him over, because when he's leaving, he says back to Bo-Katan, this is the way.
So he might end up working with them again. I could see that happening. I think maybe they did, in fact, win him over, but I think he's going to be very quick to drop any part of his religion. It seems very important to him, and it does make sense that he would think that and that he would respond in the way that he did. He definitely is, he is, as Bo-Katan pointed out, he is a religious zealot, but I mean, it's not like he knows anything else. If you remember, he was a foundling. He was adopted by these members of Death Watch, or maybe the splinter group of Death Watch. We still haven't completely verified whether, what version of Death Watch this was, other than the fact that they were from Death Watch at some point or another during the Clone Wars. But he was a foundling. He was adopted into it. And so this is all he knows. He knows that they live and die by the Mandalorian creed. Knows that there needs to be honor in battle. He knows that weapons are a part of his religion. And as far as he knows, all Mandalorians never remove their helmet in front of another living creature. So when he sees another Mandalorian do it, obviously the first thought that crosses his mind is these people are not Mandalorians, because he's probably never met any other Mandalorians outside of his clan.
And I mean, one of the things we've been talking a lot about this season is Din's ability to bring different groups together. So I do think at some point, Din is going to play a major role in bringing the children of the Watch and all the different sets and religious cults of Mandalore back into the fold of Mandalore. I agree with Doug. He's not just going to drop what he believes to be the right way of being a Mandalorian right away, but he may be willing to bridge that gap and have, the Mandalorians like the Night Owls and Bo-Katan work together with this religious set of his where they can bring back greatness to Mandalore.
And speaking of Mandalore, great segue there, we find out something a little bit interesting about Din's particular, religious clan. The fact that they believe that Mandalore is a cursed planet. I think that's kind of interesting. This could be because, it's this particular clan's way of keeping them away from other Mandalorians. It could be because of the Empire's hold on the planet for as long as they had it, that, after the Great Purge, of course, they might consider it a cursed place to go to, because after all, any planet where you're going to be constantly purged and your weapons are taken away from you, your ideals, your way of life completely taken away, and the Beskar steel stolen from them constantly. That's something that I would consider cursed too if this was my culture. That so this could be something else that we're learning more about. The way to kind of add on to that video that Dave mentioned that you guys should go watch.
And once Mando finally believes that they are actually Mandalorians, Katie Sackhoff lets him know, Bo-Katan lets him know that, hey, I might know where a Jedi is, but you need to help us with a mission. This happens every episode. Hey, I need your help. Well, we need your help too. So it's kind of becoming a common theme this season. And so he has to drop Baby Yoda off at Frog Lady's house. He has the mind your manners, you know what I'm talking about line. Hopefully the wee Baby Yoda doesn't need any more eggs in front of the two frogs. And then they take off to take this Imperial ship down with all of the, well, I shouldn't say, they go to get all the weapons off this Imperial ship is what Din thought. And I love the one scene right as they kind of board the ship, they kind of take care of some stormtroopers out front. And there's a scene where you see all three of, well, they're not all Night Owls, but Bo-Katan and the two with her just kind of marching with purpose through the ship. And I'm like, man, that just shows amazing military presence with these three. And I thought it was so well done in this episode.
I love that they observed Din Djarin like they did in the Clone Wars with Ahsoka before they asked for his help. They kind of scoped him out, see what he could do. And Keith's exactly right. When they were fighting their way through the stormtroopers, Mando looked like the one who was inexperienced. The way they were walking through there, and he was kind of the last one through, looking around, like, wow, someone else can do this, So, if he bonds with more Mandalorians and he realizes that his way is not the only way, but then he can participate in the reclaiming of Mandalore.
So do you guys think that the stormtroopers that they basically turned into cannon fodder, as is usual for this show, do you think that they were members of the 501st as well, like what we saw in the last episode of the first season? Or do you think these were just, paid background actors?
I do think they were just paid background actors. The reason they did bring in the 501st during the first season at the end was the number of stormtroopers they needed. So it was much easier to call in the 501st to get a bunch of people there already had armor. They didn't have to create all these additional suits or use CGI. So I'm not sure, but it'd be good to find out. It'd be cool if they keep bringing them back for stormtrooper scenes. I think that'd be a nice little touch. Din and the rest of the Mandalorians get all of the weapons. We find out that Bo-Katan's plan is not to only get the weapons, but to get to ship also. And this is where Din confronts her and saying, "You're altering the deal." And I really thought we were going to hear,
"Pray I don't alter it any further."
But unfortunately, she says mockingly, sort of, "This is the way," kind of understanding his religion. So Mando really doesn't have anything. If he wants to learn about the Jedi, these enemy sorcerers that he needs to find, he really got to go along with it. And he does. And he proves himself by helping them take the ship in time before the ship goes straight into the water, which was a very interesting scene. Which the one point I'm going to say about that is when you hear Moff Gideon tell them, "Long live the Empire," and he kills the two men and is willing to kill himself so they don't get it in their hands, it's almost like this faction of the Empire, or what's ever left of it under Moff Gideon's role, is as extreme as the Children of the Watch are. It's like almost these two extremist groups are going at it. We're going to get other side factions coming into this battle.
I was really thinking that this is going to be kind of our introduction into how these remnants of the Empire became the First Order, because you're completely right, Keith. The fact that these people were willing to die for the Empire, this is the type of extremism that we saw out of the First Order. These groups of people that were willing to die for this cause, more so than, ruling the galaxy with an iron fist or power or anything like that. It all seems to be for an overall cause, more so than anything else. And that was definitely what the First Order was all about, space Nazis.
And after Mando and them save the ships, Bo-Katan says, "Are you sure you don't want to come with us?" I think he proved himself in battle. And he says no, he's going to take off. Obviously, he has his own, mission to do with the wee baby Yoda. But there is something I want to talk about. When Bo-Katan is talking to the captain of that ship when they're still in the hold, she says, "Thanks for packing up these weapons so nicely. Imagine what a division of us could do with them." So obviously she has more Mandalorians at her beck and call. She was the leader of Mandalore at one time. So she's getting weapons and building up an army to probably take on Moff Gideon. Now, we may not see this battle at the end of season 2. We do know that Moff Gideon is probably going to be around for a few seasons, but they have laid the groundwork for this coming battle between not only Din Djarin and some of his people against Moff Gideon, but Bo-Katan and her Mandalorians getting back that Darksaber from Moff Gideon. So I thought this episode did a great job of laying down a lot of stuff to push the story forward. I mean, it was one of those, it was a short episode, but man, it laid so much groundwork and we learned so many things that it was just an incredibly well done episode. Bryce Dallas Howard just did an incredible job with.
I have to wonder if Din knows anything about the Darksaber at all, or if he understands sort of the monarchy of the order of how Mandalore works or anything like that. It makes me wonder what exactly is encompassed in the way as far as the history of Mandalore, other than the way back history of their whole idea of honor and fighting and having to help out a fellow Mandalorian, because as soon as she says this is a way to him, it's almost like he's locked into a contract, like he can't refuse her. So until she finally ends it with that final "this is a way," it's like he's not free to go out and continue on his own mission. But as far as the Darksaber goes, since he didn't know anything about the Jedi, it makes me wonder if he's even aware of its existence, of what it is. I know he had to have heard Bo-Katan say, "Where's the Darksaber? Does he have it?" But I wonder if it ever crossed his mind as, what is she talking about? What is this thing? Or if I wonder if he understands the idea of the Mandalore as the ruler of other Mandalorians. Like, I wonder if he found out, if he would treat her with any more respect.
Overall, what does this mean to the show? Because are we going to explore, since this show is The Mandalorian and it's about him, could this be setting up some other side show, another show, or another? I've heard there was going to be an Ahsoka Tano show. I don't know. Could it be setting something up, or maybe even setting something up in a future season that we're going to see all these forces that's good choice of words there, forces connect with Ahsoka and Bo-Katan and Moff Gideon. Are they gonna connect sometime? I don't know if it'll be this season. He seems to already have a goal, but they could be setting up something for down the line.
Yeah, I definitely think they're setting up down the line, whether it's going to be in another show or something else. It's almost like they're building up their own little Filoni verse where there's going to be different shows, but they're all going to kind of tie in together. Like, I don't think he's going to be with Ahsoka for a long time. I don't think he's going to start traveling with her. I think he's going to get information from her and maybe help her with something, but then they're going to go their separate ways again. Because we know that, Ahsoka and Sabine had left at the end of Rebels to find Ezra, who was with Grand Moff Tarkin, or not Grand Moff Tarkin, but Grand Admiral Thrawn. And maybe this brings him in contact with Moff Gideon. So I think it'll all be interconnected, but I don't think it's going to be, like one big party and all the characters are marching along. I think we're going to get splinter shows. I think they're building it up so we can get multiple Disney Plus Star Wars shows, all semi-connected and able to intertwine and maybe come together at some point for some major event, but they're all going to be their own thing. And I think that's wonderful. I'm looking forward to, future installments of Star Wars shows on Disney Plus, because if they're as good as The Mandalorian, we're all in for a treat. All right, well, this is our review and breakdown, and we've kind of broke it down pretty well. So now let's give our reviews. I'll start off here. I think it was another wonderful episode. They really came back to the quality of episode 1. Episode 2 was good, kind of filler. This was almost kind of filler too, to a certain extent, but because it pushed the story so far forward with learning about the Children of the Watch, with seeing Bo-Katan and finding out she's still on her mission, or she's on her mission to get the Darksaber back. We still haven't found out how she lost it, so that's a story for another time.
A good question for another time.
We got wonderful fight scenes. We got wonderful cinematography. We got wonderful music. We saw the repurposing of the Imperial Walker at the beginning. So they're doing this world building so well. And I just kept thinking this whole time, because, Din Djarin was kind of trapped by the Quarren on the boat. And then when he got back to the docks, there was another trap waiting for him since he killed the guy's brother. Do you think they had a lot of traps in this episode because, Admiral Akbar's species was on it?
It's a trap!
So I definitely love this episode. Everything about it was really well done. And I'm going to give this a 9.0 out of 10, just because it really pushed the story forward and made me want next Friday to be here sooner than later.
And we did. Now that we're doing the review, there's, we did have one prediction wrong. We said Sasha Banks was going to be Sabine Wren, and we were wrong about that. So, we definitely like to pimp it out when we're right. So we'll mention it when we're wrong. I like how this episode set up many different things. There's so many different ways they can go. I wouldn't call it a filler episode, but I mean, it was short and sweet, had tons of action, much needed action for the story that they were telling. The overall theme of redemption, or bringing families back together with the Frog Lady and Bo-Katan trying to reunite Mandalore. It was a good episode. I wouldn't call it a filler, but I'm not going to give it a high rank. I'm going to give it an 8 because I think it was better than last week's episode, and it's going to lead into something else. And the action was fantastic, but 8 out of 10 is what they're getting from me.
I definitely would not call this a filler episode at all. To me, this was back to form. I really enjoyed this episode. This was great. It had everything in it that I look for in a good Mandalorian episode. It had just the right amount of, I hate to use the word fan service. I guess an Easter egg would be nice, but basically a nod to the overall fandom. I love when Dave Filoni and crew put in the little, hey, you remember this from, old Star Wars? Remember that? Isn't it pretty cool that they're using the AT-AT for a crane? Oh, hey, you remember when he got the calamari flan? He's using it now. See, I love the little nods, a little attention to detail like that. And obviously the creme de la creme of this episode was seeing Bo-Katan in real life. I thought it was amazing. It was so cool to finally get to see her show up. And yeah, Dave called it. He hit the nail on the head. She looks just like her animated version. The armor, the helmet, her look, her face, her hair, everything was spot on. Even her attitude was exactly the way that she acted in the animated series. So this was a perfect pick. And I loved seeing that she's still basically acting like the leader of the Mandalorians. She's doing whatever it takes. She mentioned, like what Keith said, that she does have other Mandalorians, a whole squadron that they're going to give these weapons to. And yeah, I really would love to see her eventually take Mandalore back. I don't know how the New Republic is going to feel about that. I don't know if there's going to be kind of a clash. We see that Din is kind of hesitant. He kind of hesitantly gets along with them because he's sort of... he doesn't seem to really be on one side or another. He's just kind of on his own side. And I have a feeling that the rest of the Mandalorians are most likely going to be like that as well. I don't think that they're going to hold any sort of side as far as the New Republic goes. I know that they hate the Empire, but that's pretty much it. But yeah, I think this was an amazing episode. I loved all the little callbacks. I loved being able to see Bo-Katan again. I loved the humor. I loved seeing the face hugger alien thing grab Baby Yoda's face. I loved the little hint or the little finally some discipline, like what I asked for in the last episode, having Din tell him, behave, use your manners, don't eat any more of her kids. I thought that was amazing. So I'm going to give this a 9.5 out of 10. I thought this was great, and I can't wait to see where it goes next. I have a feeling next episode is going to be another of a filler, but we'll see. Hopefully it'll be good.
Thanks everybody for watching. What did you guys all think of this episode? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you love the fan service? Did we miss any Easter eggs or little things that flashed by that we didn't see? Let us know down in the comments, and we'll see you next time at Not Your Status Quo.